Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are discussing feminine communication and how to communicate femininely to men, and understanding the differences in male communication versus how females communicate, because we do communicate differently for estrogen dominated women versus testosterone dominated men. There is a lot of brain differences that contribute to our differences in communication. There's also a lot of body language that also differs from the male communication system. So we're going to be discussing that here today. And I do consider myself to be a dating and relationship coach, but keep in mind that these kinds of understanding this communication knowledge and tactics to better understand men and women overall, whether you are male or female, is not just strictly for romantic relationships, okay? We have to look at relationships as an umbrella term for all different types of relationships, because there are relationships that you have with your coworkers of the opposite sex. There is family members that you have to learn how to communicate with that differ from your communication method. And so it's not always just pertaining to romantic, intimate relationships and couples, or just pertaining to women that are in the early stages of dating a man. Because yes, there are going to be different communications that you use with someone that you are just beginning to know and just beginning to date in the early stages versus someone that you are married to and have been with for several years, right? These are two completely different phases of a relationship that you will be going through. And I'm not going to go over all the phases of the natural progression of a relationship in this video, but it's just to say that when you're communicating in a feminine manner, this is not just simply directed towards your romantic male partner, but also to just men in general in your life. And then the language will kind of switch up a little bit when you are more intimate with a man. Okay, and the first things first in feminine communication is really about, it is less of what you say and more about how you say it, and the tone of voice and the energy and the message behind what you're saying. So a quote that I've always kept really close to me is, the louder that you say something, the less that the other person will hear you. And we see this as the case most often, because usually it is not what you are going to say to the person and the exact words that you're using, but rather the tone of voice that you're using and the energy that is attached to the message that you're trying to get across. So let's say, for example, that you're aggravated because your partner never takes out the trash on his own, and you always constantly have to remind him. And then so you approach him and you say, "You never take out the trash." And how you are saying that in the way that I just exampled to you is not really landing with him. It's kind of going in one ear and out the other. And this is because your tone of voice and how you're saying it is kind of giving him the subliminal message that you're blaming him for all of your problems and all of your negative, heavy feelings, and that if he's not doing what you ask him to do, that he can't be happy. And so he feels blamed for not being able to make you happy, and feeling blamed for your negativity, right? So in that instance, when you do communicate it that way, it's kind of just going in one ear and out of the other, and nothing is really sticking. Okay, so then changing your tone and how you're saying something, making just that simple little switch in communication and energy behind it, would be the exact same words, but with a different subliminal messaging, saying, "You never take out the trash." And just that little shift in your voice, and laying more low on the aggressiveness that's coming through in the first way that I exampled, is going to make a world of a difference when you are trying to get through to a man and you want him to make changes. And hear me out. These are just subtle changes that make a world of a difference. But do not ever put pressure on yourself to be perfect, right? To feel like you have to be perfect and always have your communication A game. Because we are all human at the end of the day, and especially we are all women, right? Women, we have such a different we have different mood shifts and swings, just a world apart from what men experience within themselves. And so it is never something that is supposed to be that you are supposed to feel burdened by, or this sort of pressure on yourself to be perfect and always getting it right in your communication. But you can train yourself and train your verbal language, and train your brain to say these things differently and less aggressively in order to see these real changes happening before your eyes. Because really and truly, when our brains and bodies are under more stress, when we are sort of in a state of more overwhelm, we are going to experience 8 times more blood flow to the emotional part of our brain, especially differing from a man who doesn't experience the same amount of emotional rush to their brains. So what I would suggest in a situation where you are feeling more stressed out and overwhelmed with maybe circumstances in your life, or even circumstances with your intimate partner, is that you just kind of take time to yourself and reflect in what it is that you're feeling, understand it, kind of pull it all together, and then deal with it on your own. So that way you're not bringing that heavy energy to him, which can really become a heavy burden on him, and ultimately cause a lot of tense feelings within the dynamic of the relationship. You just don't want to make that your normal way of communicating, where you're dealing with a lot of stress and experiencing a lot more rush to the emotional brain, and then you're carrying all that to him, and he feels kind of burdened by your problems that you claim to be about him not taking out the trash. But in reality, it really isn't about him not taking out the trash, and it has so much more to do with, on a deeper level, the issues that you're having with him in the emotional aspect of your relationships, or even the heaviness of the stress that you're feeling from your work day. It never is about the surface level issue. Okay, so another thing to understand about men in communication too is that men are going to be less confrontational about more intimate emotional feelings, and women are going to be a little bit better in that department. We are going to be we have these natural proclivities to kind of pull emotions out of people and connect in a more emotional way, to other women, to our children, to men, whoever, right? We just have more of a gift for that than men do. However, we are less confrontational and less direct when it comes to issues that are more surface level and are more maybe business orientated. Okay, so a big reason why we are less confrontational is because that for thousands and thousands of years we always had to be, right? We always had to be more people pleasing in order to survive out here, right? In the deepest part of our brains, where we are just here to literally survive, we are trying to do whatever we can, say whatever we have to say in order to remain a close part of the social group, right? Protect ourselves in a way so that we can live and survive. And evolutionarily, this made a lot of sense for us, because confronting others and risking our way out of close social groups, are risking ourselves out of interpersonal relationships, was very, very dangerous, because it meant that we might not have a chance at surviving, because we literally couldn't survive on our own. So as women with more of the ability to pick up on certain scents and notice things that men can't notice, and remember things that men can't always remember, we are more sensual as women. We have a better sensory system in our brains of smelling things. And again, from an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense because we had to remember berries that were dangerous, right? We had to smell different things in order to protect ourselves and our survival. And the way that this can often clash with men is that we sort of kind of look at them as we kind of start to think we kind of get annoyed more easily with men that aren't able to notice the things that we are noticing, like if the baby just pooped in its diaper, okay, and we can smell that and the man just has no idea what's going on, or they can't find something that's in front of their face in the refrigerator. Men are just not storing information in the same kind of way that we are, because it's just in a man's brain, it's just kind of irrelevant, right? If it's like, why do they have to store this information if it has nothing to do with providing and protecting, right? Because the man's biological system and his brain is wired to provide and protect, and kind of everything else is just almost irrelevant in a way. So how do we as women be the leaders in communication, which we are supposed to be, because we are just simply better at communicating than men are, just evolutionarily speaking, and it's just the way that we are wired. Women speak, on average, I think it's like 10,000 more words a day than men do, right? It's just how we are different. And so one of the ways that we can lead better communication with our men and communicate in a more feminine, gentle manner is not only tone, but also invoking a more emotional reaction within yourself, and invoking emotions within you in order to kind of pull that out and invoke emotional response from him. Because yes, while you do need to appreciate the qualities of the male communication brain, where he's going to be more direct, he's going to be more looking for the fire, he's going to be more problem solving orientated, he's going to be more looking for ways to provide and protect. While you can appreciate all of those things, you also want to have that healthy balance of invoking a more emotional more of his emotional capacity out of him, especially as an intimate partner in this situation. So a way that you would bring out more a softer side of him is not trying to buck up and speak from your headspace about an issue that's been happening or whatever, and more so speak from a place in your heart, and portray more of what you are feeling about the situation, and really let that emotion shine through what you are saying to him, rather than, again, bucking up and trying to, communicate in a more aggressive way, speaking from a very direct, harsh tone, which can kind of just register to men as more of a masculine quality, and a more you'll get more of a competitive response from him, because that's how men communicate, right? Men are more competitive with other men, but they don't necessarily want to be in a more competitive communication space with women. They need to be more emotional and soft spoken and soft-hearted with women, and only we are able to pull that quality out of him. So, for example, you would say, let's say you're having an issue in the relationship and you're just not feeling very heard. You're not feeling like he's putting a lot of effort in lately to do things for you, or just he's not really caring much about your needs. You feel kind of distant from him emotionally, okay? So you would say, you always want to use the language of I feel, right? And then use the emotion, use that emotion to your advantage, okay? So you would say something like, well, I just feel like, you haven't really been showing up lately, and you just seems like you've just been busy, and I don't know, I just feel kind of distant from you, and I just don't like the way that that feels for me. It doesn't feel good to me, and it makes me sad because I really miss you. You know, the language that I'm using here is using emotional language while also exhibiting feeling behind what I'm saying, versus if I were to completely switch up my tone and trigger more of a buck up competitive response from him, and say something like, I just, you haven't been showing up for me lately, and it seems like you're always busy and you're not giving me what I need, and I'm just so sick and tired of how you've been lately. You're very distant and it just pisses me off. You know, like I'm being kind of over dramatic here, but just to give you an example of the differences of how those two things are being communicated and how they're landing with him, because one is going to work much better. He's going to hear you much clearer, and you're also going to be able to pull that emotional reaction from within him, and then you'll end up seeing change in the end when you can invoke more of that emotional response. The feminist agenda says that it is perfectly acceptable to teach lots of children, to take care of children, to cook in the kitchen, to clean homes, and to submit to the authority of men, as long as it is not teaching your own children, cooking and cleaning your own home in your own kitchen, and submitting to your own husband. Okay, so I hope that that information has been helpful to you and helping you to understand better communication tactics for communicating with men more femininely and softly and delicately, in order for you to have healthy relationships and understand men better, and also magnetize men more in towards you, and ultimately creating better situations and less stress in your life overall. If you need more help and insight on anything that I've discussed in this video or in previous videos, just go ahead and send me an email, which will be listed down in the description box below, and I'll be more than happy to get back with you and chat with you about working together. Also, if you are out there in the dating world and you just don't know where to start, you don't know how to be that woman that can attract men so easily and have men just so magnetized and allured towards her, trust me, these women are skilled. They are knowledgeable in the area of understanding themselves and understanding how to attract quality men. And that's why I have put together the WIFEY dating playbook, which will be listed also down in the box below. It's such a great dating playbook with lots of questions answered for you single ladies out there who need some work in the dating department and getting a man to fall all over you and commit to you. So that's all I'm going to say for this video. I hope that you found it to be helpful, and until the next one, I will see you guys soon.